Katherine, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the college that you work at.
It's Katherine Hansen. I'm the Executive Director of College Relations and Marketing at Renton Technical College, which is outside of Seattle, for those people who don't know where Renton is. And I've worked here about 7 years. Before that, I worked in private higher ed. And before that, I was a journalist.
Oh, great. So, what we're talking about today, I mean, you've kind of got experience from all
Yeah.
angles. Yeah. Well, I saw Katherine speak at a conference about a situation that unfolded one snowy day on our campus and thought this is something that every listener to this podcast will want to hear and learn from. So let's start right from the beginning. Just dive right into your story and tell us what happened.
So, unlike the rest of the country that deals with snow a lot, we don't here in Seattle, and it kind of shuts things down. So, we'd had a few snow days that week. So, most of us were working from home on this particular Friday afternoon when we got a notification that there was a man wearing all black, wearing a mask, demanding information from an executive assistant in the president's office who just happened to be the only person that was there that day. It was late in the day, and we didn't really know what he wanted. We didn't know what was happening. He was demanding records. She was frightened. Security was called, and then we found out that this is what we now know as they call themselves First Amendment auditors, and they call themselves journalists. And we were not aware at that time he had visited another college in our area, but then now we know all about him. So he posted a video. He posted a very salacious video, and it resulted in the most hateful and disgusting onslaught of messages, email, social media from his followers. I'm intentionally not naming this channel because they are monetized channels and we don't want to give any attention to them. So it was traumatic for the people that were involved that day, as well as the rest of the campus. And what he was asking for was a thing called a public records index, which is a kind of obscure back from like dating back to the 70s in our state, Washington, which our public records officer and me as the PIO, I mean, we'd never heard of it, to be honest. We do now, and we immediately put together a public records index and notified our colleagues at other colleges that this had happened to us. So that was the first visit. It happened to be Friday afternoons are generally a quiet time. There's not really classes on campus. And because of the very light snow, but nonetheless snow that had happened, there just weren't very many people on campus to assist this
So going
individual.
back to when he first came on campus, you said that he was demanding. I hear this story and I think, oh, somebody's just come onto campus and they're just politely asking for records. How was he acting? What was it like?
So it starts out, I can tell you more about when I actually talked to him, but it starts out sort of, hey, I'm here to make a records request, disguised his face. I mean, he wears a full mask and
Right.
gaiter and sunglasses and a hat. And he has
Wow.
a GoPro mounted to his chest. So he's recording at all times.
Okay.
I think in this day and age, it's alarming to see a person like that just walk in. But it starts out, hey, I'm here to make a public records request. He approaches a frontline staffer who doesn't necessarily have the answers that he wants or know where to find them.
Right.
That is his MO. And then what happens is he sort of provokes people to react. He wants to provoke a reaction. And unfortunately, he usually gets one.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot from that first visit, and we made immediate changes and or education to the campus about it. But the initial assault on people verbally I mean, a lot of the emails or social media posts I couldn't even repeat.
Yeah.
They contain racist, sexist, vulgar language. And our council told us that we could not remove them from our social media. We couldn't remove
So
them. We
afterwards,
couldn't even hide them.
wow, so he edited this interaction he had with the staff member, but I'm assuming that he edited it in a way that wasn't reflective of what actually happened.
Definitely catches the worst moments
Okay.
intentionally, but his videos are quite long. I mean, they're 20 or 30 minutes usually.
Wow.
So, and then they include contact information for everyone. And he says, we are not trying to, we don't recommend any type of mass, emails or anything, but that's the effect of what happens from his followers, not him, his followers. Also resulting in repeated multiple additional public information requests.
Okay.
Which we're familiar with and we respond to all the time, right?
Well, and I was going to say, when I fulfilled public information requests at 2 institutions I worked for, and I can't think of a time that someone came in person to make the request, let alone came with a camera. These requests are usually pretty formal. They're documented. They come through email. So right off the bat, I mean, there's red flags right off the bat. Right. So it's interesting, your advice of legal counsel. So as someone protecting the brand of the college, I'm sure you do want to take things down or flag items for inappropriate content, but you were told to not do that.
Well, our policy at that time said that we could hide comments that were threatening, obscene, things like that. And he didn't believe that those comments fell under that category, because what they would do is comment on a post, a great story that we wrote about a successful student, and then they just flood that post. Oh. So they were commenting on posts that were unrelated and repeatedly posting the video. Right. And then also posting things that say, you're prohibited from removing any of these posts.
How long?
We have changed our policy since then. I can get into that.
Oh, okay.
If you like.
Let's save that, because I definitely want to talk, because I think I have a feeling that people are listening right now and they're asking themselves, what is my policy? What is our policy and what should be in
Absolutely.
it? Yeah. So let's come back to that. But first, I want to ask, how long was it before the visit and the video? Like, did you realize a video was going to be made and posted? Were you able to prepare at all?
So one of his tactics is he announces when he's going to be posting his videos. Okay. And they're on a schedule. So we knew it was coming at a certain particular time. He doesn't tell you when he's coming to see you or talk to you, but he tells his followers when he will be posting them. Okay. And it was within several days.
Okay. So in between that visit and the posting, I'm sure you were able to alert the president and legal counsel and okay. And what's your advice? Like, for people just listening to this right now that have never heard anything like that, what did you do? Like, and what would you tell them to do after that first visit? What's the first thing they need to get moving on?
Well, I think the important thing for people to know is to not be left unaware, right? So we found out a lot of things after that first visit. Like, it's legal to record public employees in a public place, even though Washington is a two-party consent state. As public employees in public spaces, they're allowed to record you. We didn't honestly know that. So when people say, I don't give you permission to record me, you can't record me, that also elicits more, what's the word, snarkiness from him about people not knowing the law. We also made sure that everyone on campus knows who is our public records officer, and that people can request public records in person. That's normally not how people do it, right? But they can. So we provided forms for people to, if he didn't want to fill it out himself, to write it down exactly what his request was, and to how to get that to the appropriate people at the college to respond to.
Great. And I mean, you can also have someone like this show up under a separate pretense. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be asking for public records. They could be asking for anything and just trying to rage bait people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think rage bait, what is that, the word of the year or something? I do feel like this. When I presented this at our District 7 conference, which is Pacific Northwest, basically, people from outside of our state, because this person has been active in our state, we're familiar with this. We've talked about it at our state meetings and other things, but people from outside of the state didn't know. And although some states might have different laws regarding how particular policies and things like that, these First Amendment auditors operate in every state.
Right.
They're everywhere. And the First Amendment laws apply everywhere. So I think people need to know what their policies are, who their records officers are. And as we learned from both the first visit and the second visit, that we need to teach people to respond calmly, and that you don't have to talk to these people, right? You can say, I'll take your request. I have to get back to work now, and follow up. Right. But what we found is if he didn't get what he wanted from one person, he'd go to another person.
He's just waiting. He's just waiting for that one person to get mad.
Which is why I intervened eventually. But it is designed to provoke a reaction from people. I think this particular individual, but in general, from my research that I've done, that is indeed their point.
Right.
And they make money by posting these videos on their channels. It's an income source, and they want to get as many people to view their videos and click on the ads and all of the things. So it is a business for them.
Right. And what a disappointment for the college then to see other people jumping on and making these horrible comments and saying these racist and terrible things. You know, you think, oh, this person's operating alone, but there's a whole subset of people out there that like this content and want to be terrible.
That's right. And there was another person that was featured in the initial video. We don't get a lot of phone calls anymore. I think in the whole, era, people email, or there's Zoom, or there's Teams, or there's this. Our phones don't ring a whole lot. And this person was in a meeting and had 30 phone calls within about 10 minutes. So I don't know if it's a coordinated attempt or not. And, their story is public right to know, public servants not responding to what they wanted. But there were comments like, fire this person should be fired, and there were comments about their personal appearance, and there were comments about their race, and there were comments. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was, to me, it was just horrible for the people that were involved in it.
Yeah. And I assume, I don't remember if you covered this at the presentation, but I'm thinking of this poor woman who was the victim of this. Like, I'm assuming that the college probably helped. Like, she would maybe need counseling or some help afterwards, right?
We did offer support services to folks that were involved and allowed them different working options for the time. We learned how to actually divert calls. Our tech support helped us divert calls from those folks, put out office replies on their emails so that supervisors were checking the emails rather than, so they didn't have to see every.
No, I mean, what a terrible work environment. You'd be scared. I mean, I would be scared to sit there out in the open knowing that people were sending and thinking these things about me. So, well, I want to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, but when we come back, I want to hear about the second visit, because this doesn't just stop with one visit. So
I did not.
We're break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
How do higher education decision makers find the right solution when technology evolves at light speed? Well, we usually start with our network. EdTech Connect is the network that's democratizing the higher ed technology conversation. EdTech Connect is free, so anyone with a .edu email address can sign up and list the software and services they use in their role at their school. Once you're in, you can find out what solutions similar schools are doing all over the country. Whether you're looking to find the hot new AI tool, or maybe learn options you have to upgrade your campus search engine, or even get to your short list of marketing solution vendors, EdTech Connect is the place to go. So visit edtechconnect.com and set up your free profile to get a pulse for what's happening with higher ed technology today.
All right. So before the break, we heard all about the terrible first visit, how you responded, and then surprise, another visit happened, not just one, but two, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us what happened next.
In the intervening time, as we were continuing to educate our community, holding staff meetings and providing informational materials about what the laws are and how to respond to these folks, then a second visit occurred, and there were different folks in the office. And despite all of our educational efforts, some of the information they provided to who to refer people to and how to respond didn't happen as we would have hoped that it would. So I went to talk to him. At that point, he was demanding a meeting with the president. He filed complaints. He filed public records requests about all the interactions that occurred the first time. So I went to talk to him, and I said, I'm the PIO for the college. Can I help you? He did relate to me a little differently, I will say. And I was trying to not appease him, but try to give him what he needed and have him move on. So we set a meeting with the president. I took his further records requests and we talked to him, and then he left that day. The follow-up video, because I had been involved in it, so I knew what I said to him. I knew how long I spoke to him. It was very much obvious how the editing of his videos works, because I had been there for quite some time. So I knew what had been said. He did not put my name in there, so I didn't receive the type of vitriol that the rest of the folks did that day. So it was another video. There's a part of his procedure is then to repeat the stuff from the first video in the follow-up video, right? So it continues. Right. That, I don't know a better word for it than assault. Like, it's a verbal assault, right? It's not a physical assault, but it's a lot. The first one was in January, second was in February, and the meeting was scheduled for March. So in the meantime, I should also point out that this particular person does not give you his name. Mm. He has a sort of anonymous email address. So there are a lot of ways in which he wants this accountability from the places that he goes, but doesn't provide that to us. Right. And legally not obligated to. People can make anonymous public information requests, that's for sure. But it's an interesting sort of paradox of it all.
Right. Kind of a feeling like, well, the perpetrator's protected. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's protected, but we're out in the open. Yeah.
But I felt like it was important for me to intervene. I think an administrator, I'm on the leadership team for the college, but this is what I do for a living, right? And so I feel like it's important to have someone in a leadership position sort of relieve these frontline staff who might just happen to be there, right. That to the extent that we can protect our staff as well. He does consider himself a journalist. I would say that term is different than, I've never had a journalist just show up on campus without asking me if they could come and arranging interviews. or calling me and talking to me on the phone, right? So but this is a whole new world, right? So, but the second visit was not as inflammatory as the first, but still there were a few comments that I suppose those people would like to take back. But it's an ongoing question, and then somebody explodes or says something they wish they hadn't, and that's the piece that you see over and over.
Right. And I mean, this is human behavior. He knows how to push buttons. I mean, we've all had our buttons pushed. Luckily, it's not on camera for most of us.
I know. There was another college at the time, one of our sister colleges to the south, that had been also visited, and they experienced the same kind of things on their social media, and they went through the same exact things. So we were comrades and helping each other out through that. The colleges that he went to where he said, "Oh, I'm looking for the public records index," and the person said, "Here you go." There weren't videos of those, right?
Right.
Because that's not the type of content that he wants.
That's not a conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were a little bit more prepared, but not exactly where you wanted to be. And did he come back another time?
Yes. So the third time we arranged a meeting, the president really said I should point out another important thing. There's a real difference between public space and private space.
Okay.
So one of the things that we had done was indicate that. So a private office, a classroom, there's no right to record there. That's different than a lobby, a reception area, an auditorium where you're having an event, for instance. So we told him that the meeting would be in a private office so that he couldn't record at that meeting if he wanted us to answer his questions. Okay. And I said, we don't do public business in the lobby. Like, that's not how we conduct business. So we will be doing this in a private office. And that it was clear that was not going to happen. So a couple other administrators, including our public records officer, we agreed to have a short meeting with him, which started off pretty like, can you tell me this? And have you done that? And it was very, it seemed amenable, but then amicable, I suppose. But then he started asking questions. One of the records requests that he had made was for all the team's messages from that day.
Oh, the same day?
I think that most of us know that our emails are public records, right? I think in every state. For public agencies, I think we know that documents are public records. I think people think of Teams sometimes as a chat, like a little chat. Those are also public records. And while none of those Teams messages were there wasn't anything terrible said about them. There was some, I guess, flippant remarks made. There were some type of LOLs, things like that. So he then proceeded to ask us about every single message that was sent that day. And do you condone this? And do you condone that? And do you condone that? And do you condone that? And I finally said, I don't think we need to continue the line of questioning because we're not going to respond to every single one of these messages. That was an important reminder to us to remind our staff that those Teams messages, you still need to be professional, discreet. You can't be putting things on Teams messages that you wouldn't put in another format because they are disclosable.
Yes. It reminds me of a reporter back when I was the director of communications at Maricosta. A reporter had made a public records request for every email in the last 2 years that had contained certain phrases. And
we've done that too.
Yeah, you've done that too. It was like, oh shit, or it was like things that basically say like, I've done something bad, I've done something wrong. And I had to read all of them before releasing it because you do need to make sure that there's nothing protected in there.
Mm-hmm.
And people were talking about personal things that should never have gone in email. And then we had to go back to people and say, we had to release your emails that talked about this in your personal life because it's part of a public records request. So really good reminder to people.
Really good reminder. Yeah. So that, I mean, we do an annual sort of ethics training, of course, but it was a good reminder for all of us that you have to be very aware.
Yeah. So let's go back to where you started, and you started talking about some changes that you made. So before the break, you mentioned some changes to your policies. So what happened? What has come out of this experience?
So an important thing is putting up those signs that say, this is private, only authorized personnel. We put up signs.
You put them everywhere?
Throughout campus in well-traveled areas. Like, for instance, our office is the Foundation and Communications and Marketing. We have a lot of people coming in there. So they can't go into our, say, private kitchen, right? Or that area. So there's a sign there.
And there's what does the sign say again? What do you have on it?
It says this space is for staff only or authorized personnel only. Okay. And then we, through my office and in consultation with our legal counsel, we did revise our social media policy that we can hide comments. We can't delete them, but that means no one else can see them except the person that posted them. We can hide comments on social media if they're made and if they're unrelated to the post. So we have to save them all. In our state, we have to save them all as a matter of an extension of our public records, but we can hide those comments. And so that has been a very important change that we made. It helps in other situations too, where somebody, we write a story about a big fun event and then someone goes, oh, whatever, something unrelated that maybe is not even related to the college. So we've done that. And then the most important part is like educating the community about how to respond to these people. I have also recommended, and other colleges might do differently, that you don't have to engage. It's okay for a staff member to say, I'm not authorized to speak about this. I need to contact a supervisor, or call me, or, call the public records officer, or call whoever in administration can help you, that you don't have to continue to engage with them. And when we had that sit down with him, it was long. It was a long sit down, and it did not. The reason that I encouraged us to do it was to hopefully put an end to this, put a period to this, and to spare our staff further visits. It wasn't, the video wasn't as bad as the others because we were answering his questions, but it did not do much to quell his followers.
Right.
So we probably would not do that again. There have been several visits to other colleges where people are very helpful and gracious and say, oh, here's what you need, or the person that you need is out today, but I will take your request, and it goes very well. And then he'll wander around and find someone else.
Right.
And just to try to, again, provoke a response. Another college, the president sent out an email to the campus, which we've all done, and explained what had happened. And then somebody forwarded that email to him. So he came back to that particular college and followed the president, found her in the parking lot, and followed her, asking her about her email. So again, you never know where this stuff is going to go. There was really nothing wrong with her email, but he did not like how he was described in it.
Right.
So
this also reminds me, for people listening, I did a podcast with a woman last year. Her name's Stephanie Craig, and I think it's episode 54. It's crisis communications.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she recommends that in cabinet or in work groups that you tabletop exercises like this.
Yes.
I think she actually calls them "oh shit" exercises, where,
Yeah.
where you're not prepared and you just bring something.
Yeah.
So Katherine brings like, boom, this is scenario. How do we deal with it? And that does help prevent some of the things like having to send out emails, like on certain events because you've prepared for
Sure.
all these different events. So,
Well, and I think we're all used to dealing in our positions with crises, right?
yeah.
Things happen, whether it is an incident on campus or some sort of bad behavior by somebody or whatever, and you get calls from the press and you have to learn how. We have a policy on crisis communications, right? We have a policy on media relations. But those people that are approached who happen to be at the desk that he goes to, they're not,
Yeah.
that's not their job. They're not necessarily trained to do that. So
And
we
that's
want to
why
make
he
sure
picks them.
that we're there to support them, right?
Yeah.
And those tabletop exercises, we do quite a bit, but not something like this that was unexpected.
Yeah. It's always the crisis and people crises that we're not prepared for. I feel like colleges have done such a good job preparing for, random snow days or power outages or earthquakes.
Right.
But it's these people inspired crises because they're random and we can't predict them at all.
Yeah.
But we still need to think about
Right.
what would we do and how would we prepare.
And I think that's the point of all of this, of my making these presentations at the conference, is to educate people about this, because it could happen anywhere. It probably has. I should say that this particular person is not limited only to colleges. I mean, he's been to school districts and fire districts and all kinds of different things. You've probably seen those on social media where someone's just standing on a public street filming, doing nothing, but people come out and say, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" And they're like, "I'm just looking around. And I understand why it is so uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be filmed without their permission. But when those folks then engage themselves, then it is going to be most likely not good for them.
Right.
If they're right. So you see those, I'm sure everybody has seen videos like that, some places on social media. These are particularly geared toward public agencies.
Well, Katherine, this has just been such a great podcast. I mean, your story, it really hits home of why we need someone on campus to be in charge of this, to be in charge of records, to make sure that we're ready for crises. And I think you've given some really valuable tips. If people want to get in touch with you, other colleges, and hear more, how can they get in touch with you?
You can email me or anytime. I'm happy to answer questions.
Great. I will put your email in the show notes and your college name, obviously. And I don't know, are you speaking at any more conferences this year?
Maybe. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Well, if you are a community college marketer going to a conference, look out for Katherine's name because it's a great presentation. And I've learned a lot, both from your presentation and from our conversation today.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, please reach out if anyone has questions. I'm happy to share our policies and all those things.